evening. I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. A bombshell ruling from the Supreme Court in a unanimous decision. The High Tribunal has ordered the government to return 60 billion pesos in PhilHealth funds that were transferred to the National Treasury following a Finance Department circular. The court declared the move void, saying it was done with grave abuse of discretion. But where did the money go? Let's get on point with then Finance Chief and now Executive Secretary Ralph Recto. ES, good to finally have you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pinky. Thank you for having me.
Let me start with the SC ruling, ES. Your take on the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court that government should return 60 billion pesos to the National Treasury and permanently prohibit the transfer of 29.9 billion of the fund balance.
Thank you for your question, Pinky. In the first place, we had no intention of getting back the 29 billion. Tapos na yung 2024 to begin with. And from the very beginning, I already said that we will respect the decision of the Supreme Court. And in fact, last September, the President already announced that we will return the 60 billion and that will be incorporated in the 2026 budget. Now, why not in the 2025 budget? Because there is no item in the 2025 budget for us to be able to return the 60 billion. So legally, we have to put it in the budget in 2026.
Got that. I was looking at the decision and the brief on the decision. There are some parts here that need to be talked about. ES, I hope you don't mind. One is the unanimous.
Sure.
When it's unanimous decision, it was about all 15 of them said return the 60 billion to the national coffers. But there was also another ruling on the special provision in the GAA, in the 2024 GAA, that actually started this, and the Department of Finance Circular Order 003, 2024, that you issued because you were Finance Secretary back then.
In furtherance to the GAA provision.
That's what I mentioned earlier, sir. So yung 2024
that's
GAA.
Correct. That's
diba?
correct. I just wanted to highlight. Yes, I wanted to highlight that because the authority of that circular comes from the GAA provision. If there is no GAA provision, then there is no circular to begin with. So what was said to be unconstitutional and void would be the GAA provision, and ergo, therefore, there is no basis for the circular.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to lay that premise. I wanted to lay that premise,
But remember,
yes.
The authority comes from the GAA provision. I just wanted to stress that, Pinky.
Because, fair enough, because what's coming out is, medyo kayo po yung bida dito, lumalabas, no, for lack of a better thing to say, siguro, Executive Secretary, kasi parang lumalabas, dahil po sa inyo, nangyari po itong paglipat ng pondo ng PhilHealth to the National Treasury. But if we really look at this story, there is a special provision in the 2024 GAA, and then when that was implemented, when that was passed, here comes the Department of Finance ordering the transfer of excess funds of PhilHealth to the National Treasury. Sir, quick question. Who was responsible for this special provision in the 2024 GAA?
The special provision was done by Congress. It is found in the General Appropriations Act approved by both houses of Congress.
Okay. So ito po yung tinatawag nilang rider provision in the 2024 GAA.
That's what the Supreme Court calls it. That is correct.
What I want to find out from you, sir, is that did Congress work on its own without the executive department saying, Congress, there seems to be some extra funds here with the PDIC and PhilHealth. Put something in the GAA so that we can use those supposed excess funds and use it to fund projects or put it in the unprogrammed appropriations, sir.
Good question, Pinky. Number one, it is not Congress identified in House Bill number 13. Frankly speaking, I was there in Congress. I was presiding officer then as Deputy Speaker. I would just listen to the debates, not participate in the debates. You know, coming from the Senate, I wanted the younger people to do the debates, and we were just there presiding. Having said that, Pinky, it was not only PhilHealth and PDIC. There were many GOCCs that they have identified to the tune of something like 700 billion. Okay. For PhilHealth alone, they identified 203 billion. For PDIC, they identified 184 billion, among others. Like I said, it went all the way up, if I recall, about 700 billion, and that's why that's the amount in the unprogrammed for 2024. No, I understand the reasons why Congress did that at that point in time, and I explained this in the Supreme Court as well. We submitted to the Supreme Court the deliberations of Congress. Okay, and to answer your question directly, yes, Congress had hearings and invited representatives from different government agencies from the executive, including the Department of Finance, and I was a member of Congress then, right? So there was this debate. These were all identified. The House passed a House bill. It never became law. Those provisions, in effect, found its way in the GAA of 2024. And frankly speaking, I was not even aware that there was such a provision in the GAA of 2024 until I became Secretary of Finance. Then I had to read the GAA and many other special provisions because my job is to raise the revenues to fund, you know, I'm the chief national fundraiser as Secretary of the Department of Finance, to finance the budget of 5.7 trillion. Our revenues are only 4.2 trillion. I have to collect we spend 15.8 billion a day. My collection is 11.7 billion a day. I have to borrow 4.1 billion a day to finance the 5.7 trillion. No? Having said that, that is the job of the Finance Department, chief fundraiser, through taxes, through borrowing, but ensure that the deficit is in check, that I don't borrow additional money.
Maybe a lot
having
of...
Said,
Sorry,
yes,
sir,
having said that, Pinky, okay. So, I understand also the reasons because I listened to the debates. You must remember that we came from the pandemic in 2022. That was now, the BBM administration inherited then 12.8 trillion in debt. The debt to GDP ratio was 62%. They wanted to pump prime the economy. Ergo, they look for excess funds. Katulad yan during the pandemic in Bayanihan 1, Bayanihan 2. This is like a Bayanihan 3.
Okay.
Okay?
Secretary,
to pump
sorry.
prime the economy. Yes.
Let me cut you
and
there. Because
that is the purpose. That, if I may just finish, that was the purpose of that. Okay? And we tried to implement it without additional taxes and without additional borrowing. Yes, go ahead, Pinky.
Okay, got it. It's important to underscore that you were a congressman at that time, in 2024, when this rider provision, this special provision, was implemented for the during the 2024 GAA. Kayo po ay hindi finance secretary noon. Baka lang ho kasi...
That is correct.
Oo. Baka hindi natin, we're forgetting. You were congressman, and then in 2020, January, I think, no? Was it 2020? Eventually na lang po, you became finance secretary. That's correct, no, sir? Okay.
January of 2024.
So, sir, the question is, this was an act of Congress. Ito pong itong special provision that the Supreme Court is talking about, which became the basis for the Department of Finance to move the money, hindi ho ba? So who
That's
in
correct.
Congress, because this was in 2024, who in Congress was responsible for this particular provision? Because I will have to understand as that both houses of Congress, except those who probably said no to the budget, understood and agreed that any excess funds coming from GOCCs, which includes PhilHealth, will be moved to the
Yes.
National Treasury.
Yes.
So who in Congress was responsible for this?
I don't know if I would say the entire Congress was responsible
Except
for it.
those who voted against the budget, obviously.
I'm not aware of who voted against the budget, but I'm sure there are a few who voted against the budget. But, frankly speaking, even I was not aware that there was such a provision in the GAA 24.
Right.
I recall that there was a debate on House Bill number 9513. And I submitted all those records in the Supreme Court during the deliberations of this case at that point in time. Yes.
Yeah. So, ES, nung nakita, you weren't aware nung kay Congressman na may special provision sa GAA 2024. And then you were appointed as Finance Secretary. So when you saw this provision, you said, this is a provision that will allow GOCC's excess funds to be moved to the National Treasury. Hence, dumating po yung Memorandum Circular or Circular number 003 2024 that you spearheaded. Kaya po kayong lumalabas na
Yes.
you're the one.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
the
point
brains
is
even.
this.
It appears like you're the brains behind this. Okay, so because of that particular provision, it gave you the right to move funds. Quick question, sir. When you saw this and when you said you could move funds, did you look at the universal health care law that actually basically says that, yes, sir. Now, I mean, what was your train of thought to have moved the funds, knowing that the funds should stay either with PhilHealth or to lower the benefits or increase the case? Go ahead, sir.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I am very much familiar because I am the author of the universal health care law. Take a look at the records of the Senate. I am the author of that law. No? Okay, having said that, we have a different legal interpretation as well as the author of the law. We did not take any money from the reserve funds of PhilHealth. That is our legal interpretation.
Okay.
What we took was the excess fund subsidy of the national government that was not spent by PhilHealth. Again, let me point out, during the debate of House Bill number 9513, and that's why I mentioned this earlier, Pinky, they identified 184 billion to be returned to the Treasury. And when I implemented this, number one, that circular, hindi lang naman ako yan. I have to get a buy-in, number one, from the smart people in the Department of Finance. It is not one person who controls the Finance Department. You have a lot of bright people there. So I did adequate consultation. And then we looked at the fund balances, and it was decided that we cannot take 184 billion because you will be dipping into the reserve funds, number one. Number two, you will be dipping in members' contributions, which we did not want to do. And that's why we ended up with 89 billion. That 89 billion is the fund subsidy, excess fund subsidy given by the national government to PhilHealth that they did not spend in the last 3 years.
Okay.
Having said that, Pinky, so that was our legal interpretation, but that's water under the bridge because we lost. The Supreme Court said, mali yung legal interpretation nyo, ito yung legal interpretation namin, which we respect.
Which actually,
now,
I wanted to
going
read that part, yes, I hope you don't mind. The excess must be used to increase benefits under the National Health Insurance Program and reduce members' contributions. That's part.
there are other provisions, Pinky. I just don't have the law with me now. You can go to the end, and it also says there, subject to the General Appropriations Act.
So
Okay, but
now,
going back to another provision.
go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think that's Section 11. Okay.
Section
Anyway,
11, yes.
yung gastos ng PhilHealth at that point in time, you had terrible management in PhilHealth. They had more than in cash. They were only spending 140. Their reserve fund should only be roughly about 280. Okay? But then, like I said, we didn't want to touch members' contribution, so we only used the excess funds dun sa subsidy na hindi ginastos from 2021 to 2023. That's where we got the 89.9 billion. But like I said, that's water under the bridge, and we respect the decision of the Supreme Court.
So before I go...
But we tried to minimize. We tried to minimize if there was any harm. But it is also important to note, Pinky, that when we did that, walang naargabyado, meaning to say, no benefits were cut. In fact, the benefits increased during that time. Tinaas pa yung case rates because we pointed out to them, ang dami niyong pera, gastusin niyo muna ito.
Understandably. But,
Yes. Okay.
yes, you also know...
One last point, Vicky, one last point.
Go ahead.
And before we took the money, or we also did due diligence. We asked the COA. We asked the OGCC. We asked the GCG. Tama ba tong interpretation namin ng batas? Pwede bang kunin yung excess fund subsidy to help fund the program? And we are not taking the 183. Okay? And then pinasa pa ng board yan. Okay? So it is not for the Secretary of Finance to make this decision by himself.
Unilaterally.
Unilaterally. You cannot in our government, right? So we went to these three agencies, plus the board had to approve it. And the board did approve it. And the 60 billion didn't come in one tranche,
Yes.
or the 89 billion. It came in, I think, 4 tranches, if
Sir,
I'm not
3
mistaken,
tranches.
in different dates.
3 tranches. The last one that
Yeah.
was stopped by the Supreme Court. The last one was the 29.9.
Correct. So 4 tranches, right?
3.
Okay.
Tatlo
Yeah,
po.
4 including the 29 dapat, no? But 3 tranches is 60 billion. Why? We respected the cash flow of PhilHealth as well.
Okay.
And then not only that, this is all published. Nakapublish to sa, by law, we had to publish it. So walang sikreto dito. Utmost transparency is
All right.
what we did here.
Yes, we need to take a very short break. I'd like to continue this discussion with you immediately after. We'll be right back.
Sure.
Welcome back. Still with us, Executive Secretary Ralph Recto. I understood, sir, what you were saying, that you did not do this unilaterally. You sought the advice of experts. Everything was above board. You got the consent and approval of those you needed to get their consent and approval from. But on the flip side, sir, if the members, us members, know that there is this much money left, which you were saying that PhilHealth wasn't using, you do understand the anger or the frustration of the public, because we have case rates that they may have gone up, but they were still far from what is maybe acceptable. Number 2, members easily thought, sana tinanggal muna, nagkaroon ng tax holiday, yung tawag nila payment holiday sa pagbabayad po ng contributions sa PhilHealth.
That is not the job of the Finance Department. That is up to PhilHealth Board. That is their duty. Okay, we were just carrying out the mandate in the General Appropriations Act.
I got that. That's why I premised it on looking at the flip side, how the public sees it. While I understand that that is not the job of the Finance Department, meron pong sisi na napupunta sa inyo dahil para bang kinuha yung pera based on a special provision in the GAA 2024 that you implemented that people were thinking,
Yes.
ang dami palang pera ng PhilHealth, bakit hindi na lang tinaasan yung case rate? Bakit ang bayad namin ay 7% o 10%
yeah.
lang ng aming hospital bills? Or sana po yung mga doktor na hindi binabayaran ng PhilHealth ay binabayaran nila. Again, I understand, sir, that's not your job. But that
Yeah.
is what the people are thinking.
Yeah. No, I really. And I don't blame the public. Okay? But there are two sides to health. Let me explain. Okay? There is PhilHealth that takes care of the demand side. Then you also have the supply side, which is your hospital beds. Okay? So the idea is when you increase your demand, you have to increase your supply. And that's where our problem is in the healthcare system. When was the last time we built a hospital? Okay? You had the pandemic. We've devolved health to local government units by and large. The last time we probably built a hospital at the local level was probably in 2019. And we have to fix the entire healthcare system. Even if throwing money at a problem does not solve the problem. You need to have good management also in PhilHealth. And that's why we changed the management in PhilHealth. Now you have a better manager in PhilHealth. Now that we have a zero balance billing, and I think as of last month, may 1 million na ang natulungan niyan. We will continuously improve that. Okay? The Department of Health also, we are increasing their budget so that we can improve our public hospitals.
Okay.
In Mindanao, for example, halos walang public hospital dyan or very little. So yung mga members ng PhilHealth dyan, wala rin pakinabang sa PhilHealth. If people were to bother to read also the discussions in the Supreme Court, you had experts there on health insurance, you had experts there on public health policy from both sides. Let me remind you, I suggest that people read some of those transcripts to explain the entire healthcare system. But having said that, Pinky, economically, fiscally, at that point in time, it was correct. And I will admit, politically, it is wrong.
Okay.
Because the optics look bad.
Yeah. I have 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask real quick questions, and I hope you can reply quickly as well. Sir, where was the 60 billion used? That money that was taken from PhilHealth, would you know, sir?
I remember that, we wanted to have health-to-health lahat. Okay? Apparently, possibly, hindi napunta health-to-health. But a big portion of that was used to pay the public health emergency benefits and allowances for healthcare and non-healthcare workers during COVID-19. In fact, we paid more than from program and unprogram, more than 120 billion. Ito yung mga pinangakuan natin to pay them during the pandemic.
Yeah, during the previous administration.
Na hindi nabayaran.
Yes, sir. Na matagal
So
po nilang
under our
hinihintayan.
administration, we paid them from program and unprogram.
Are you saying
And then I think, yes.
sir, that most of the 60 billion was used to pay the, healthcare workers?
No, I think about that year we paid something like 110 or 120 from program and unprogram. From the PhilHealth, roughly about 28 billion, if I recall.
Okay, so almost half.
Thereabouts.
Okay,
Almost half.
because Justice Carpio, when I had him on the show, was saying that much of the money, which is from PDIC and PhilHealth, amounting to, I forget the exact amount, let's put it at 180 billion, sir, was used for the unprogrammed appropriations, which were used to fund flood control projects. Is this true, sir?
The responsibility for flood control projects rests with the DPWH, not with the Department of Finance. Our job is to raise the revenue, manage the debt, hit our deficit, determine the deficit targets. So revenue kami. Ang public works ang nagde-determine kung anong project ang ifa-fund. And it is the DBM who manages the expenditures.
So,
But having said that, Pinky, now that the President put me here as Executive Secretary, I have more visibility in all the departments. And my job now is to help clean the house, so to speak. So that's why we changed the Secretary of DPWH. I am working very closely with Vince to reform the system in DPWH. Same thing with the DBM. We have a new secretary, and we are all working together
All right.
to improve government performance, maximize the department's output, and monitor the performance of all the departments.
Do you think
to ensure that the departments follow the directives of the president.
Do you think, sir, that it would be a good move for government, specifically the Office of the Solicitor General, to file a motion for reconsideration on this?
I leave that to the Office of the Solicitor General. She is the lawyer of the government. I am not a lawyer, so I leave that to her. If there is a need for number one, we are not, for sure, we will not file a motion for reconsideration with regard to the 60 billion, because it is to our interest to give that 60 billion to PhilHealth, because we know that PhilHealth now can spend that money better with a zero balance billing.
But
So
at
we
least
will
that
not
point,
file a motion for reconsideration
on that point, because there are other points
Especially
here.
on-
The special provision under the GAA, or maybe even the department circular coming from the finance department.
I leave that to the Office of the Solicitor General.
Okay.
She is our lawyer, and she will make that determination.
Opo. Yes, you talked about the 60 billion, no? The Supreme Court, even the President, asked government to return that to
Yeah.
PhilHealth. Saan ho kaya kukunin tong pera to? You already explained earlier that it cannot come from the 2025 budget, but it'll be sourced from the 2026 budget. Ang tanong po kasi nung iba, or at least the realization or assessment is, in 2024, they took 60 billion from PhilHealth. They put it in whatever projects, sir, because you said you will look into this because now you have a better grasp and an eyeball on things. And then in 2026, what, government taxpayers again give out 60 billion? How does that work, sir?
Well, it came from taxpayers to begin with. The fund balances, and it is not coming from members' contribution.
Yeah, but it's still
So it
coming
will
from...
be incorporated in the 2026 budget.
Yeah, but
And that is the order of the Supreme Court.
yeah. But do you
We are following the Supreme Court.
That's right. Do you understand, sir, the realization o yung pag-iisip po ng iba na parang 2 beses nagbayad yung taxpayers?
I don't see it that way, Pinky.
You don't see it that
and
way.
neither does the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says to put it in the budget and put back the 60 billion.
Okay, last question, sir. Are there going to be just a shift topic because we have run out of time? Any rigadons coming up in the cabinet, sir? Because there's a report that possibly the ICT Secretary Aguda and DepEd's Angara might be replaced soon?
I am not aware of anything, Pinky. The President has not mentioned anything to me.
Okay. And while I still have a minute left, the President prioritized 4 bills, especially the anti-dynasty bill, sir.
Yes.
Do you think that the
Yes.
President needs, or should he not just prioritize this, but certify it as urgent? Is the President thinking of certifying it as urgent?
You know, you only certify as urgent if there is an emergency, number one. Number two, what the President wants is to get the best and the brightest to come out with a version. We're soliciting from everyone, parang open source, give us your ideas on these 4 measures, okay? I think there is a way forward. We can push the needle, we can move the needle, and to pass an anti-political dynasty law.
Okay.
In fact, the President is the first one ever to pass a anti-political dynasty law when he was in the Senate. Take a look at the law on the SK elections. That is the first ever anti-political dynasty law. So that needle has been moved. The idea now is to even move it further.
Thank you. Executive Secretary Ralph Recto, sir. I hope to speak to you again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Pinky. Much appreciated.
That's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.